Going to take a look at the 2006 movie Taxidermia. The movie follows three generations of men, a man, his son, and his grandson, each with his own kind of obsession. At the start of the movie, we meet the grandfather, Morozkovanyi, who works as an orderly for his superior, Lieutenant Balotny. Morozkovanyi has an unhealthy obsession with sex, often fantasizing about his boss's daughters. Once, while splitting the firewood outside, he peeps through the window, watching Lieutenant Balotny's daughters naked in the bathtub. Another time, while watching the girls play in the snow, Morozkovanyi inserts his penis in a hole on the wooden wall and starts to masturbate. A cock pecks at his penis from the outside and he pulls it out of the hole and screams in pain. In another scene, Morozkovanyi is sitting next to a little girl. He tells the girl not to be scared of him and asks if she wants him to magic stars in the sky for her, and the girl says yes. It turns out to be one of his sexual fantasies, and he's in fact lying on a bed and masturbating. One night, Morozkovanyi finally has intercourse with his boss's wife, while at the same time imagining that he is in bed with Lieutenant Balotny's two daughters. In the morning, Lieutenant Balotny pulls the door to Morozkovanyi's shack. Morozkovanyi wakes to find out he's in bed with a dead pig, and then he gets shot by Lieutenant Balotny. Months later, Lieutenant Balotny's wife gives birth to a baby boy with a pig-like tail. Lieutenant Balotny gets a pair of pliers and cuts off the tail. Then he names the boy Kalman and decides to raise him as his son. Many years later, Kalman grows into an obese speed eater, participating in some international speed eating contests. During one of the contests held in a stadium, amidst a cheering crowd, Kalman and his friend Mizlenzi Bela represent Hungary against the Russian team. The contestants are all shoveling some huge spoonfuls of food into their mouths. Kalman narrowly misses the first position in the first round. The contestants go on a break, during which they vomit most of what they've eaten during the contest. We notice that Kalman still has what's left of his pig-like tail, and now his coach berates him for getting distracted by Axel Gitzi, who is cheering the Hungarian team during the contest. Gitzi happens to be a speed-eating champion in the women's category, and both Kalman and his friend Bela have interest in Gitzi. During the second round of the contest, Kalman is distracted by Gitzi. This time he suffers a lockjaw and falls to the ground with a spoon in his mouth. Kalman is visited in the hospital by Bela, Gitzi, and his coach. A drop of sweat trickles down from Gitzi's armpit to Kalman's face, and he quietly licks the sweat. The coach goes on to inform Kalman that Bela came second in the contest. After a while, the three leave the hospital ward, and Kalman is now alone in the ward. The next scene is the wedding reception of Kalman and Gitzi. Gitzi is dancing with some of the guests, including Bela, who tries to convince Gitzi to elope with him. Bela and Gitzi run out of the reception hall. In her absence, Kalman picks up a microphone and starts to sing. Gitzi, who is now having intercourse with Bela, stares at her husband from the window outside. In the next scene, we're introduced to a group of young, fat boys who are being trained to compete in the speed-eating contests. The boys are all seated, ready to start competing with themselves, and their trainer sprinkles some hot cocoa powder over the dishes they are to eat, and soon the contest starts. The boy who appears to be the newest to join the team, and who also seems to be the youngest, emerges the winner, to the surprise of the older trainees and even the trainer. Meanwhile, Kalman is in the room upstairs with his coach, in another part of the building, quickly shoving some food into his mouth. He expresses his anger and frustration at the International Olympic Commission, which has refused to recognize the speed-eating competition. His coach advises him to continue practicing, and when the commission finally recognizes the speed-eating competition, the world would see how good he is. Kalman and Gitzi arrive at a hospital where Gitzi is confirmed to be pregnant. The couple is clearly excited about the pregnancy, but they're concerned that Gitzi is required by law to be transferred to a factory where her calorie intake has to be reduced, and this will affect her ability to compete in the speed-eating contests. But the couple bribes the doctor, and he makes a report that would grant Gitzi access to a special treatment. Kalman and Gitzi are at the seaside, suggesting names for their unborn child. Then they're told that comrade Svigadurin, who would like to invite them into the yacht for a trip to Sochi. but they have to finish eating 45 kilograms of red caviar in 20 minutes to qualify for the trip. Soon Kalman and Gitsi are sitting beside each other in the yacht, quickly shoving the food before them into their mouth. They take a brief break. Gitsi appears to not be in the perfect mood to continue eating the red caviar, but Kalman does his best to encourage her. At dinner, Gitsi feels so unwell she passes out, and her face falls onto the plate of food before her. Months later, Gitsi gives birth to a baby boy, Lajostka, who grows up to become a taxidermist. Quite unlike his parents, Lajostka is thin and does not eat as much as his parents. Lajostka goes to the grocery store where he buys some chocolate bars for his father and some margarine for his cats. He tries to flirt with the checkout girl, but gets ignored. Later, he returns to his father's apartment, where we find Kalman looking extremely large and shapeless. Kalman dislikes his son, Lajostka, for both his size and profession. Kalman does not stop insulting his son while the son cleans the cage where the cats stay. Later, we see Lajostka working in his taxidermy shop. He is visited by a man who needs Lajostka's professional assistance. Wild or domestic, Lajostka asks, but the man seems unsure. Domestic, I guess, the man says finally, and when Lajostka asks for his name, the man introduces himself as Andor Regoxi. He shows Lajostka a piece of paper, which Lajostka looks into for a brief moment and starts to work for him. Lajostka goes to the grocery store another time and again buys some chocolate bars and margarine for his father Kalman and his cats. At home, while Lajostka is cleaning the house, his father insults him as he always does. Kalman throws a piece of chocolate to his cat and then eats another piece together with its wrap. Kalman boasts that he is able to eat 400 plain bars of chocolate, but with the silver paper on, he is able to eat as many as 570. Lajostka asks if it comes out afterwards, and his father tells him it gets absorbed rather. Kalman goes on to call Lajostka a cyst. This time, Lajostka can't take the insults anymore. He confronts Kalman about his ingratitude towards him and threatens to withdraw his assistance. Kalman doesn't seem to care. He tells his son he can do without him and even calls him a carcass stuffer. They throw the chocolate bars at each other and Lajostka leaves the house. Lajostka arrives at a gym house, making use of the machines while an instructor guides him through the process. At the grocery store, Lajostka buys the chocolate bars and margarine, but upon returning home, he notices that the cats have attacked and killed his father. Lajostka yells at one of the cats eating Kalman's intestine. Later, Lajostka embalms his father's corpse, filling his open stomach with some grass. Back in his taxidermy shop, Lajostka is standing and surrounded by some machines and medical equipment. With the use of a mirror, painkillers, and the machines around him, Lajostka eviscerates himself, injecting some chemicals into his body. Afterwards, he sews up the cut he made. Then he presses a button and a sharp blade starts to move towards his neck. He pauses the blade for a brief moment before finally releasing it and getting beheaded. Andor Regoxi walks into Lajostka's taxidermy store and can't find Lajostka, but he is excited to find out that Lajostka has completed the work he requested of him. He counts some notes and considers dropping them on the bench in the room, but he changes his mind and goes further into the store, calling on Lajostka, but there is no response. Then he enters the basement where he finds Lajostka. The movie closes with Andor Regoxi in the gallery, narrating what he saw in the basement. On display in the gallery is Balotini Kalma, dressed in some gold-colored clothes. There is also Balotini Lajostka, standing naked without his head and right arm, looking like a Greek statue.